A lot of folks get dissuaded by sharpening because it takes a long time. But if you get competent with this, even like a full-size chef knife that has never been sharpened before and has been used for years, under 10 minutes, you can get that thing to where you can shave hair with it. And it doesn't have to be this crazy long drawn out process. As long as you understand the concepts you need to get to a sharp edge, it can go very quickly. You can sharpen anything with a cutting edge this way. You can sharpen your belt knife, you can sharpen a chisel, a draw knife, an axe, scissors, drill bits. Conceptually, it is all the exact same. The only difference is the angle in which you sharpen. And it is such a worthy thing to know how to competently sharpen something, because if you're used to just using dull tools all the time, that directly affects the quality of your work that you're able to achieve and the efficiency of the work, and that will not do. There's a couple really important points here to really understand. When we're sharpening, it is really important we sharpen the entire edge, and we're not just getting one spot. That's a very common problem I see with people who don't have a full understanding of how sharpening works, is they'll just rub it on a stone and maybe just get the tip, and they're like, oh, the tip feels sharp, the rest of it must be sharp. But there's one really easy way to tell if you're sharpening the entire edge, and that is called a burr. And what a burr is a rough piece of, in this case, metal that you can feel. This would be a zoomed in portion of the cutting edge that we're making, and that line there represents a little piece of steel that we've sharpened it, but we've sharpened it so much that a little piece of steel starts lifting up and going on what will be the opposite side of the sharpening stone. And that is something you're going to be able to feel with your hands, potentially even see. And if you feel that burr along the entire length of the edge from the handle to the tip, then you know you're sharpening the entire edge. And that little key point is the entire basis for all this sharpening, is establishing that burr, feeling it, and then once you have that burr, you can refine it, and that's what's actually getting it extremely sharp. So that's the theory of it. You might be wondering at what angle you need to sharpen. So for an axe, a high impact tool, you have a steeper angle. For like a chef's knife, it's a much shallower angle. Thick equals strong, but doesn't cut well. Thin cuts well, but is more fragile. And with these three tools, you can sharpen anything in the world. You can buy these at any hardware store. They're like $8. If I was to only have one stone, I would choose this because it has two different sides. This one's coarser, this one's finer. For general purpose use, the fine side on this stone is still a little bit coarse, but if you just had one stone, you could do anything with this stone. And then I also like to, for knives, I wouldn't do this on an axe, but this is 1,000 grit natural water stone. This is what's going to refine the edge and make it really, really sharp. It's very specific applications you would need a finer edge than what this stone can provide. And then finally, this is our strop. This is just a piece of leather stapled to a 2x4. And this green material is a polishing compound. It comes in different colors. The green one is the one that you want. And you don't necessarily even need this on the leather, but it does help. It will make your knife sharper than without it. So it's really handy. We're going to start with the coarse side of our first stone. And the way I like to find my angle is I'll put the knife at 90 degrees. I'll drop it down to 45, and if I half that, I'm pretty close. Pretty close to where I need to be. And that's going to be my starting point. I can adjust it from there if I need to. And I've done this enough where I can just lay the knife on here and I don't have to do that. But that's a really great way to just get the feel for where this roughly should be. And then here's a hot take. I don't care how you sharpen your knife. If you get it sharp and are pleased with the results, everything is completely irrelevant. So for those folks that are like, you only have to go in one direction. You don't. As long as you're removing metal, that's the important part. So, the fastest, most efficient way I have found to do this is when I have found my angle, I'm going to pinch the knife, and I'm going to do a back and forth grinding motion, just like this. And that is going to start removing material and create our secondary edge. You see that change in angle right here? We got our secondary edge starting. So I'm going to work it, because this has never been sharpened before, on both sides evenly, because we want the edge to be in the center until I feel a burr forming. And that burr is going to feel, if you run your finger this way along the edge and then you compare it to the other side, the side that was on the stone is going to feel smooth, and the side on top, your finger is going to start catching on this slightly rough edge. If you look closely enough, you'll also be able to see it too. Like you see, just like that little bit of metal is actually just peeling up. And what we need to do is we need to feel that burr from here all the way to here, so we know we're sharpening this entire blade. You're going to see this process, like a lot of folks get dissuaded by sharpening because it takes a long time. But if you get competent with this, even like a full-size chef knife that has never been sharpened before and has been used for years, under 10 minutes, you can get that thing to where you can shave hair with it. And it doesn't have to be this crazy long drawn out process. As long as you understand the concepts you need to get to a sharp edge, it can go very quickly. Once you've established the burr completely on one side, you're going to, it's basically at this point, you're just switching the burr side to side. And once the burr has been established completely on one side, you're going to flip it over on the stone and get the burr on the other side. And once you've gotten the edge established on both sides with the same grit, that is the time you move to a finer stone. This one is now ready to move to the finer side of this stone, and it's the exact same process. We're going till we feel the burr. Once the burr has been established on one side, we'll flip it over, do the same thing. And it should be known that once the burr is established, going up in grits does not take long at all. We're only polishing a tiny amount of metal to where 30 seconds per side usually is plenty of time to move up in grits, because you're just polishing that edge. Okay, excellent. I'm liking it. This is one of my favorite tools. And this is the only time the direction in which you go is important, because you don't want to cut your strop in half. So you're going to be at the same angle, but you're going to be pulling away from the edge. That way you're not cutting into the strop. And what this is doing is that burr we have, my fingers represent that little bit of metal that's curling up on the edge, is it's kind of moving that burr back and forth and kind of polishing it off to where after we strop it, there will be no burr. And we're going to do this for maybe like 30 seconds. And then we're going to see how sharp it is. And pro tip, zoom in right here. If you strop your knife frequently enough, you will never ever have to touch it to a sharpening stone. If your knife is getting a little dull and you just strop it, that has the very high likelihood of bringing it back to an appropriate level of sharpness. And that's the best thing you can do, apart from keeping your knife from rusting, to maintain your knife. Okay, I'm going to show you how I like to test for sharpness. And we're going to go from least sketchy to most sketchy. One is if you rest the blade on your fingernail and it catches, that usually means it's pretty sharp. A dull knife will just slide completely off. Another way, and this does take some time to get the feel for it, but if you run your finger along the edge this way, the scarier it feels, the sharper it is. That just takes feeling a lot of knives to get to that point. You can also, if you're feeling especially hairy, you can find a spot, and if the knife shaves your hair,
that it does.
That's pretty goddamn sharp. That does take a little finesse with the technique, and maybe do so at your own risk. But if it's sharp enough to shave hair, it's sharp enough. You don't need it any sharper than that. If I wasn't talking, that probably would have been 2 or 3 minutes. So, it doesn't have to be this big thing. That's how you sharpen.